podcast, and we have another great guest with us today. If you haven't listened to David Kim's episode, I don't know that you necessarily need to go back and listen, but there's a saying: behind every great man, there is a greater woman, and this is the greater woman behind David Kim. So welcome, please welcome Blair Kim to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, but thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, there's no need to be nervous. This is just a friendly, awesome conversation we're gonna have. And I'm really excited to have you on because I've actually really wanted you on for a long time.
Oh, really? That's surprising.
Because you're a very articulate person. I think you have a gift about expressing your thoughts in word. So I really appreciated that about you, especially when you prayed. Like during all those like Servants Network meetings and all that.
Wow, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate the encouragement.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Has no one told you this before? I'm sure
No,
they
I
have,
mean,
right?
people definitely have encouraged me in the past, but my life has shifted a lot in the last couple years,
Right.
and I think for you to say that to me today is just a reminder of a lot of things about my life. So thank you.
Oh yeah, of course, no problem. So I was thinking that we would kind of do something similar with David's podcast, where we just kind of talk through your life,
Okay.
figure out how you got to where you are, and there are really interesting things in between that I personally really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
So first, where were you born? Were you born in LA or?
Yes, I was actually born in Anaheim.
Oh.
My parents immigrated to the States when they were 10 and 11 years old.
Oh.
So they met in college. And so my parents are pretty much 1.5, maybe even almost second generation Koreans. And so I grew up in a household where we spoke English. And
Wow.
culturally, my parents are pretty American as well. So
Can I ask you then, why are you so good at Korean? Because it sounds. Because I'm sure when you were growing up, your parents primarily spoke English.
English,
too, right?
yes. I'm not good at Korean. I just get by conversationally. And actually, a lot of my Korean is from college. I joined a Korean campus ministry in California. And a lot of my friends were mainly Korean speakers. So, yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I
But
see. Wow.
yes, it's crazy. And I grew up going to Korean church too. So, yeah.
So you kind of always had Korean a little bit in the background, at least.
Definitely, yes.
I see. Wow. Okay. Wait. One other question. Anaheim. Did you go to Disneyland a lot?
No, I didn't. Oh, I left Anaheim when I was 4 years old. And that's when I moved to Georgia. So I maybe went like once or twice. My parents probably didn't want to take me thinking I wouldn't remember anything.
Right.
But yes, I've gone since then though, several times.
I see. Yeah. Because I actually grew up in LA, in Torrance.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I from 6 to 12, and we would always.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The entirety of my elementary school was in LA.
Oh,
Yeah.
Torrance. All
Yeah.
right.
So we used to drive to Anaheim, I think almost every summer. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so you went to Disneyland a lot. then.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and we went to like Vegas a lot because Disneyland was for us, Vegas was for my dad.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Good times. Sorry, but continue.
Yes. So yeah, I was born in Anaheim. I lived there until I was 4 years old, and then my parents found out they wanted to leave California because they were scared of all the earthquakes that were happening during that time. So my parents found a business in Atlanta. I think it was alterations. It was alterations.
Okay.
My mom studied fashion design, so
Oh,
that was
wow.
her background. So she came here and she bought a business, and then my dad and I followed, and we came. That's how we ended up in Georgia.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Wow, earthquakes. I'm trying to think if there was there a big earthquake that happened?
So there were several actually. I think I want to say like 92, 91, 90. Don't quote me on this. It was around like when I was 2, 3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
we experienced maybe 3 or 4
Wow.
that were pretty big, enough to scare my parents
I see.
and to think that, yeah, I think we shouldn't live here. Yeah.
I see.
There may have been other reasons, but
Right.
that's the main reason.
Yeah. No. Because I think there was one big earthquake right before our family got there, and we moved to LA when I was 5 or 6.
Okay.
So the time frame kind of works out.
Yeah, definitely.
But the funny thing is, when I lived in Torrance, at least in Torrance, there was maybe one kind of mild earthquake the entire time that I was
Right,
there.
right. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I went to college there and I didn't experience any earthquakes
Yeah.
either. So,
Yeah. And you actually, before the podcast, mentioned that because a big part of your life is ice skating,
oh,
right?
yes. Uh-huh.
And you said you started at 3?
Yes.
So
So,
you started ice skating in Anaheim?
I did. I started
Oh.
ice skating in Anaheim at 3. My mom just always wanted to be, I don't know if she wanted to be an ice skater, but she swore that her daughter would be an ice skater. So before I could even do anything, she threw me on the ice. Yes. And I
Wow.
have this vivid memory of me, my mom telling me for the first time that she's going to take me ice skating.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought was, because I had never, like, no one showed me ice skating before. There was no such thing as YouTube when I was growing up. So it's not like someone was like, someone could just look it up and show it to me. So I imagined like small ice cubes because I didn't know like it could be a sheet of ice.
Huh.
So I imagined small ice cubes like on the ground, and then like someone asking me to walk on it, and I thought my mom was crazy, but that was my image of it at the time, and I remember it was in I want to say the Costa Mesa area. It was Southern California. The rink doesn't exist anymore, but we got there, and I remember my mom put me on the ice and she said, just go. And I just cried the entire time, clinging to the wall. But after that, she put me in group lessons. And then we moved to Georgia when I was 4. And so from age 3 to about 16, 17, I competitively figure skated.
Wow.
Yes.
So 14 years. 13,
Yeah,
14 years.
yes, something like that.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit more actually, but yeah. Like maybe it was past that. I can't really remember right now, but
So you started in or I guess in Anaheim. But was it as soon as you moved to Georgia, your mom was already like looking for a new teacher and all that kind of stuff?
well, I grew up in East Cobb, Marietta, and that was the only rink at the time. It was called Park Air. And then it changed to the Mick, but now it's closed completely, I think. But the reason we moved to Marietta in that East Cobb area is because of that ice skating rink.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, where was your mom's alteration business? Was it?
It was in Sandy Springs.
Oh, wow. So she could have landed anywhere, but because of
Yes.
ice skating, she chose.
I mean, I
East
think
Cobb.
there was a good school system at the time
yeah,
too, but mainly it was because of the rink.
Wow.
Yeah. So my life for that 14, 15 years was completely all about ice skating. There was nothing else.
Do you remember that? Those like coming to Georgia and having to,
Yes, I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember us moving here, and I remember going to the new rink for the first time, meeting my new coaches for the first time. Yeah, I remember those things pretty clearly.
wow. Was it? Because I'm trying to think back to when I was 4. I have very few memories of when I was 4. I was still in Korea. Nothing. Yeah, there's really nothing that I can pull out and say, oh, I remember this distinctly. Do you feel like that was it because it was a big transition that it left an impact, or do you just?
Possibly, yes. I do. I don't know. Some people don't believe me, but I do have good memories of like when I was really little. Like, I know this is crazy, but I can remember like even images from my first birthday.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Wow. No, I believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that.
So maybe it's just good recall. I have no idea. But yeah, I think it was a big transition in my life, and definitely, without even realizing it, made a huge impact on who I am today. So yeah, probably that's why I remember.
Do you feel like it was a hard transition for you? Because I ask because I feel like when you're like a teenager or something, transitions can be really hard when you lose your friends, when your environment is changing. But when you're that young, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of things that you're emotionally attached to outside of your family, right?
Yeah. So I don't think the at that time of my life, I don't think moving to a different rink and things like that, or I didn't even start kindergarten yet. So I don't think that was a big transition. I just think as far as skating goes in my career, it was such a humongous chunk of my life that those times is why I remember it, because it just impacted so many things. And I think that it was a domino effect in a lot of the things that I do today, even is why I feel that it was really a big deal.
I see.
Yes.
So you continue skating. Were there like leagues or like competitions that you were a part of?
Yes, definitely. So man, I have to recall everything now. So I was part of there's two figure skating clubs currently in Georgia, as far as I know, the Atlanta Figure Skating Club and the Georgia Figure Skating Club. I was part of the Atlanta Figure Skating Club, and this is basically, I guess, what you would call a league
Oh, okay.
in other sports. However, it's just a group of skaters, and when you're like, that's your team. That's your team. You represent the Atlanta Figure Skating Club. When you go to competition, they'll say, "Please welcome Blair Kim from the Atlanta Figure Skating Club," and you would go to competitions in the South Atlantic region, and then at the end of a season, there would be a large competition called regionals, and then at regionals, if you do well, you move on to sectionals, and then after sectionals is nationals, and depending on your age, you'd go to junior nationals or and so on. Yes.
Oh wow. So is it because to me that just sounds like a series of competitions. Is that all it is, or did you guys have just kind of regularly scheduled meetup times to skate together or whatever?
Oh, like practice?
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm just trying to imagine ice skating, right? Me not the only exposure to ice skating that I have is watching Kim
Right.
skate. Korean
Queen
national
Yuna,
treasure.
yes.
Yeah, right?
Okay, so I can explain
Yeah, yeah.
my childhood for you. Okay, so basically, as a figure skater, competitive figure skater, my day consisted of me waking up at 5 in the morning. And then my mom would take me to practice and drop me off. She would go to Sebekido, which is dawn prayer for
Right.
those that might not know that word.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
and then after she dropped me off, I would skate for so each practice time is 45 minutes. So I would skate for 2 sessions in the morning, and then during that time I would have lessons from my coaches.
Right.
And after my morning practice, my mom would come pick me up, and then I would go get ready and go to school. And then after school, there would usually be some sort of conditioning, like ballet or
Oh,
off-ice
wow.
training, which includes like speed and endurance for like how you would train for anything, I guess. But
Wow. So ballet, is that for form and flexibility?
yeah,
and all that?
flexibility and
Huh.
like just a lot of the choreography stems from ballet and things like that. And if I didn't have off ice conditioning, then I would just do one more practice ice time, and then I would come home, do my homework.
So what time would it be when you got home?
Probably like 5.
Wow. So you basically had 12-hour days.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So, and then in high school, it was a little bit easier, I feel like. My schedule was a little more flexible. In the afternoon, I didn't like jam pack everything. But elementary and middle school was a little bit tough for me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that's what it kind of looks like for anyone that is doing ice skating competitively. My schedule might even look like nothing. Honestly, these days these girls are out for blood. But if I'm honest, but
Do you think ice skating is big in Atlanta? Because
bigger than probably you would imagine. Yes, but no, not as far as like if you go to Delaware or up north, Boston or Michigan, it's much more competitive there. Even California has a lot of competition as well and a lot of serious skaters.
Interesting.
But yeah, there is a lot of good skaters here in Atlanta too.
Huh.
Yes.
So with you doing ballerina and stuff like that off ice, did you ever consider going into ballerina, doing kind of the
So like honestly, if I had made a decision about my life at 3 years old, I think I would have done dance. I think I would have gone in. Yeah.
Well, but would it have been a hard transition for you? Because you're already doing ballerina, right?
It wouldn't have been a hard transition, but I was just so far in the skating world. It was too late for me to back out
I
at
see.
that point.
I see. Wow.
And the only reason I did was because I stopped skating was because of an injury.
Oh, so this is when you were 17, so
Yes.
like junior, senior in high school?
Yes, my senior year of high school.
no.
I was practicing and I tore 2 ligaments in my left ankle, doing a jump. And, at that point, my senior year of high school, I had to make a decision. I think I had to make a decision if I was going to continue to skate and just really go for it, and when I say go for it, I guess I mean, work harder to, get to a higher level, or even, everyone when you're skating at that level, your hope is nationals and the Olympics.
Right,
But
right.
I was still really young and there was a lot of good skaters at the time. And anyway, so when I tore 2 ligaments in my ankle, it took me 6 months I was 6 months in a cast. And then after that, it took me 6 months to recover and go through physical therapy. So at that point, I was just like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to choose to put this behind me. And it was honestly a really bitter ending for me. And yeah, it was really tough. Just a huge, you spend 15 years doing one thing.
Yeah.
I could go down my soapbox of why my life, sucked, but it didn't. No, my life didn't suck. It was awesome. And I can look at it now and say, man, I don't regret any minute of it. However, at 17 years old, I was lost. I completely didn't know what to do. I felt like resentment towards my family, even though they wanted what was best for me and they thought they were doing what was best for me, putting in the time and the money and the effort for me to succeed. I thought, what in the world? Like, it was a waste of my time, right? And at the time, I couldn't see the bigger picture. But yes, at 17, I was like, okay, now what?
Right.
You know?
So then at that age, when you're skating at that level of competitiveness, is it a choice between going all in on ice skating or going to college? Like, you can't do both?
So I think definitely not. However, I think that there was this weird pressure that I put on myself. It may have come from my parents at some point in my life. However, at that point, I think I felt like I only had two choices, 2 alternatives. And definitely there are so many other choices that I could have made. However, I felt like, for whatever reason in my life, I felt, it's either all in or nothing at all. And that's part of my personality too. It's a curse, but yes.
And then you kind of alluded to the fact that you don't regret that happening. Do you want to kind of get into that a little bit?
Sure. So let's fast forward, I guess. I completely left the sport. I didn't even look back. I wanted nothing to do with it. I think I was just in a lot of hurt unknowingly, a lot of like wounds and scars that, skating is a sport where you're judged off of being perfect, right? So you have to skate perfectly. So there were things that I think were coming up in my life and in my heart where I realized I desired perfection in everything I do. And all of this was stemming from my life as a figure skater. And it took my college years for me to realize that.
Oh, wow.
So when I stepped away from ice skating, and it was really good. It was a really reflective time for me. But anyhow, I completely left it behind me. And I graduated college, and oh man, there's so many different things that happened. but I graduated college with a degree in mass media arts from the University of Georgia, and I wanted to make videos and produce and direct. However, my first job out of college, I was editing videos and like doing what I thought I wanted, creating, stories. And I thought I was doing what I wanted to do, but really I hated my life. Like every single day, like just for me, the environment I was in and just having to edit videos constantly, I just was not happy. And I thought, oh my gosh, I made a big mistake, right?
Yeah.
And so I quit my job. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Right. And God opened the door for me, actually. So with my background in ice skating and also my background in my education, there was my old coach, who is like almost my second mom, because I grew up with her for 15 years. She was a TV director for a network called Ice Network. It no longer exists, but at the time, basically, it was a web streaming that when any national or any big competition was happening, this TV crew would go and she would direct the live feed. So she knew I had just graduated, and she knows that I'm a hard worker, and she asked me if I wanted to join this TV crew.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really awesome. I was a TV replay producer for Ice Network for about 2.5 years, and this consisted of me traveling. They would travel me, and like I would get to produce TV. And for me, there was a lot of heart in it because I knew, like, so I know it sounds crazy, but I knew like these skaters skating at national level, I knew what it took for them to get there, right? I knew it wasn't just, all of a sudden someone snapped their fingers and they were there skating at nationals. But it was my job at that point to make their, 10, 15, 20 years of work look like 10, 15, 20 years of work. And it was such a pleasure to be able to do that, and such a joy for me to work with people that also loved what they were doing. And I could use what I learned, my craft, and also my experience in the skating world to be able to produce live television for people to watch internationally. And I really loved it. I remember sitting at the top of the U.S. Championships bleachers, and no one was there yet, but people were practicing. I remember looking at all of these competitors and thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is it. This was God's plan for my life, right? If I didn't experience everything I had, I would not be able to be a replay producer at 22, doing this and flying all over the nation to be able to do this. And it was really eye-opening for me. And I just realized, there's always a bigger picture.
Wow.
And there's actually even more to my story. And
but before that,
yes.
So just to kind of
sorry.
No. This is really great. But just to inform the ignorant like me, for replay producer, so is your job kind of looking at a live event Are you the person that creates the video of the replay to play?
Yes. So like
Dang.
in any sport that you watch,
Yeah.
there's always replays, right?
Yeah.
So someone is actually in a truck watching the live feed, and as the feed is going, they're telling their technicians who are I'm the producer, and then I have an engineer that's working the video. So I would tell them, okay, this is what you need to cut here and then stop here, and I would tell them what angle I want. From which camera, and then when the director tells me, I'll be ready to play the replays for her.
Wow.
Yes.
Isn't that high pressure?
So high pressure, but I loved it. And like,
Oh.
and you know, it was different because, okay, so with editing, so what I hated about it was you have to keep watching it over and over again.
Yeah.
And it would drive me crazy. And again, my perfectionism, like, personality would just
Yeah.
not allow me to finish a project in time, right? And so what was great about live TV was like, even if I messed up, it was done.
Right.
I couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, it was
Oh,
really
wow.
great.
And when your coach reached out to you about this job, did she know that that's what you had studied?
Yes, she did.
Oh,
She
okay.
did know
Because
that.
so you kept in contact with her even after you had stopped asking?
I don't think I mean, sure, we might have texted here and there, but I think more of social media actually
see.
at the time.
I see.
Kind of yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I had no idea that you did video stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. For about 3 years. And like that actually led to other opportunities to work with Major League Baseball too. So it was really great.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Just for a short stint. I know I make it sound really cool.
No,
but
just even if it's for like one occasion.
yeah, I got to work the All-Star game in Phoenix one year and a few Braves games here in Atlanta. It was really great.
As a replay producer again? Or?
No, I was actually a production assistant at the time, but yeah, so those kind of opportunities were really great for me. And I think just even getting to know people in the industry too was so fun. But you know, all that to say, it's not what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a different competition. I want to say it was 4 continents for figure skating. And I remember I had 2 engineers that year, which is unusual. Just the bigger the competition, the more engineers you would get. But, you know, thankfully, you know, these engineer guys, they're really old souls. You know, they've been in the business for a long time. And so there was no like competitiveness. Do you get what I'm saying? In the sense, and so you know, because I'm this young girl, right?
Right.
Like does she know she's my boss?
Yeah.
Like, does she know what she's doing?
Yeah.
But there was, thankfully, I worked with people that were so great and so willing to help me. But I remember one year, one of my engineers asked me like, "So Blair, like, what's the goal for you? Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to like reach director, or what do you want to do?" Right? And it had a very sobering moment. And I said, you know, I think I just want to be a mom.
Wow.
And he said, oh, that's great, right?
Yeah.
But I think too, I realized, oh, you know what? I think as much as I love this, maybe this is still not the life for me, but I will continue just for this moment to do this. But yes, so it was really, I'm not doing it now.
Right. So another question I had, because this is off of David's podcast.
Yes.
You guys were dating while you were in school, right?
My last year.
Your
of
last year,
college,
right.
Yeah, my 5th year.
So you were still dating him while you were traveling and doing all the video production stuff?
Yes.
Oh, I see. And do you think, did that inform your decision to want to become a mother because you knew that you had a guy at home?
It may have, yes, probably. And also just I knew that if I wanted to continue what I was doing seriously, again, I have to travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to be a mom for a lot of my life, and I didn't want to be away from home. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it difficult was it travel at such a level that it was difficult for your relationship with David at the time, or
Oh
was it?
no, no, no,
I
not.
see.
It wasn't to that extent. I think I was just thinking about the future when that guy asked me about it, and it is you really have to want it, right? In
You're right.
anything,
Yeah.
but especially in the entertainment business, like you really gotta want it and compromise
Yeah.
certain things and. Not in a bad way. I think there were just areas of my life that I wasn't willing to compromise on, and I felt like other people wanted it more than me, and I think I just wasn't willing to fight. And I realized that I didn't want it enough.
I see.
So maybe it's not for me, right?
Wow.
So
That's a really good skill to have, though. Being that level of self-aware.
I don't know.
You
I
don't think
guess.
so? No, because I think there are a lot of people in your position that would have just said, "Well, this is my path." Not even if they, in their heart of hearts, they don't want it as much. I think it would have been very easy to just say, "Well, this is my path, and I'm just going to continue on it."
I think you have a point, but I also recognize that my choices in life are luxury. Like I have luxury in doing that. My parents have really done a good job of providing me everything I need in my life.
Wow.
And because of that, I can make choices for myself that don't really have a cost, and I understand that I live a life of luxury. And also get that there's a lot of people that don't have that same choice as me. I think if they had the opportunities that I have had, they would have fought, and they would have
Right.
put some more effort into it and just followed through. And so in that sense, I don't know if it's good, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just to give the other side of the perspective a little bit. I mean, I'm from a very luxurious background as well, but I think the field that I'm in now, I kind of just had to do it. I talked about this a little bit, actually several times, but my dad declared bankruptcy in 2008, and it was right around the time I was graduating. And I literally just took the first job I could get, and I just went all in on it just to get some money so I can help out my parents, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I guess I fought for it, even though I didn't. It's not like my passion. But like looking back, I want to say, even if it meant a little bit of discomfort for me and my family, there's a part of me that wishes I had done something else, like that I had that self-awareness to be able to say,
Right.
let me try doing something else instead of just doing something that I'm kind of forced into.
Yeah.
I think
No.
we have, there's valid points on both sides, right?
No, definitely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand that too. So yeah, I mean, I'm all about championing people, right? That have passion for something and to just go for it. And again, I think there are two, like you said, two sides of the
Yeah.
story. But I have realized that my self-awareness has put me in very good positions and not so good positions. But yes, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And just to go back a little bit, you talked about how you were production assistant with the MLB.
Yes.
So what does a production assistant do?
Basically a slave, David. We just do everything they need us to do. I make it sound fancy with the word PA, but that's the reality. Yes, to get your foot in the door in that world, a PA, a production assistant, is the best way to do it. And you have to be just nice to people. And if they ask you to jump, you say how high, And so again, compromises that you're like, okay. But actually my life in ministry really excelled me as a production assistant. Because like I had no problem. Like some people, I think they were like, oh, like, why do I have to do this? And
Yeah.
I understand it. You have to do some really grunt work.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
I was ready. And, so I think that's why they kept calling me back. Honestly, that's why I got more jobs, because
Yeah.
I looked like I was enjoying the grunt work.
I see. But if you're a PA for the MLB, don't you kind of need sports knowledge, at least a little bit?
A little,
Right.
yeah, a little.
And we talked a little bit because before the podcast, we had a short discussion. I was kind of I was shocked just because I had zero idea.
Right, right.
But you're fairly into sports, I hear.
I am. I like sports.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know honestly the like current temperature of everything just because mom life has taken me out of a lot of things, but I really do enjoy sports. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. For those of you guys who know Blair, I don't know, like you're such a like when I think of mom, like you're one of the people I think of, right? You're
Oh.
such a like mom person. So like I feel like those two images in my head are incompatible, but it's just I guess it makes sense because
Yes.
such a big part of your life
So
was
I'm
sports.
I'm an only child, and I kind of half joke that with people that my dad maybe wanted a boy, but my dad is really into sports. He's he's very American in his culture. So I watched football growing up. Football was always on the television. If it wasn't football season, it was basketball season or baseball season, right? And when but we're really big football fans, so when football season's on, like my dad is like, all right, like time to get back into life here. So but yes,
I see.
I'm more into college football. Go Dogs.
Oh, that's unfortunate. No,
It's okay. I married a techie, so it's fine.
Okay, then this shifts gears into kind of after all of that, your entrance into kind of married life,
Okay.
and mom life.
Yes.
How was that transition, and how did all that go?
Sure. I'm so sorry,
No, no.
David, but is it okay if I share one more thing?
No, please, yeah.
It'll transition into my married life
No.
because it happened right before I got married. To kind of cap off this whole ice skating chapter of my life, I actually after I left the television world, I was like 24, 23, 24, and realizing I didn't want to do that forever. I had to find something else, right? And naturally, I would go into production again. But like I mentioned before, I wasn't willing to fight as much as other people. And I realized editing and stuff really wasn't what I wanted to do, which is unfortunate because I think if I continued to pursue it, it would have definitely given me more open doors and opportunities in my career. But anyways, so I, like a lot of post grads, I was like, okay, like now what,
Yeah.
right? And long story short, I felt like the only thing in my life where I really felt passionate about and I thrived in was the investment in other people. And so I even contemplated being a teacher and going back to school, but David, back then, who was my boyfriend but my now husband, I told him, and he said, "That's great, honey, but you hate school." I said, "Yes, I do. I hate school, right? Like just the studying aspect of it." So I said, "Okay, not a teacher then." And I did. I thought, what about ministry? But I also didn't want to step into that not feeling like called, right? Like meaning at that point in my life, I thought I would be going into ministry just because I had nothing else to do, right? So I didn't want to do that.
I see.
So I prayed about it more, and God reminded me of my time as a figure skater, and I reached out to that same coach that helped me get my television job, and after talking to her, she suggested I go into coaching. So I thought, oh my gosh, I know nothing about so much has changed in the last 10 years of the sport, and I don't know anything. But my coach, she helped me get back into the skating world.
Wow.
And not only that, so right before I injured myself, there are 7 levels in the U.S. Figure Skating Association, and I was on the 6th level, and I quit right before I got to my 7th. And so
is that kind of skills based?
yes,
Wow.
it's skills based. So how it works is there are two tests for each level, and basically I there's like a freestyle test, which is consisting of spins and jumps. And then there's something called field moves in the field. And that consists of edges and turns and things like that. And you have to take 2 tests for each level. But no matter what test you take, if you pass for that particular test, you're considered that level. So the senior level is the highest level. I quit at the junior level. So at 24, I decided, okay, I'm going to learn how to be a coach. But not only that, I want to finish my 7th level, right? And so I think that's around the time I met you.
No, yeah, I
actually.
vaguely remember this. Yeah,
Yes. And so I did. I trained. I had to get back into shape. And the reason I wanted to share this was because this whole process of a year of training and getting ready for this test was really restorative for me. Not just my body, right, to get back in shape, but even my relationship towards the sport and even some small things with my family and my parents that I didn't know were there, like these wounds that I had of like, why didn't I do something else? Like, why did I pour everything into this sport and I have nothing to show for it? But in that year, it was really a redemptive time.
Yeah.
And I did pass my senior level, and that was in February 2015. I had already been engaged at that point, and I got married in June of 2015. And so it was the last thing I kind of did in my single life. And for me, it just made the whole experience just, again, God's bigger picture.
Wow.
And it really came into fruition. And so I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful for that time, and I'm thankful for my coach, and even for my family and friends that supported me through that year. I think some of them thought, "Man, you are crazy," because like, why am I doing this, right? But it was really great. So so after that, I continued to coach, and which led to the next parts of God's plan for my life. So, yes.
So are you coaching now?
No, after I got pregnant, I was unable to coach, so I
Right.
had to quit.
Right. Okay, then let's just jump into that chapter.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, huh?
No, this is amazing.
So if you heard David's podcast, David and I met in college, my 5th year, his freshman year. And by the way, his dates were kind of off, but that's okay. But it was, it's pretty much the same thing. But anyways, I met David just unexpectedly in campus ministry. And like he had mentioned, I just thought of him as a friend, kind of like this 동생 that came from Brazil. And I was like, so like interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like that you would come all the way from Brazil to go to college here at Georgia Tech. So we became really good friends. And, I don't know, I can't remember what he said, but just about our relationship. But
he said that at first he was just not thinking about you romantically.
Yeah.
And that's, you guys got close.
Yes.
Yeah. And then just
So
kind of evolved.
Exactly. We were just friends for a while. And then, that's exactly what happened. And
so you called him 동생, which in English, the direct translation would be like little brother.
yes.
Right?
So,
I mean, you guys, there's a 4-year age difference. Was there any sort of, what's the word I want to use?
stigma.
I guess. Like, because I'm sure when you were just getting close, it was fine. But once it started kind of turning romantic,
Yes.
was there any part of you that felt like any sort of resistance or?
Sure. Like in the beginning. And I think, but honestly, more than like the social aspect of it, it was kind of, for me at that point, the previous people that I have dated, they were older than me, right? So this was a new thing for me, right? And then also the campus ministry that we were involved in, like David had mentioned before, there was a rule that you're not allowed to date if you wanted to be in leadership. And actually, my reasons for, so I went to UC Irvine for 2.5 years.
right.
And then I transferred to the University of Georgia. And in my time at University of Georgia, I was heavily involved in this campus ministry. So it wasn't like I just was passing through. It was like it had meaningful impact in my life,
Yeah.
this campus ministry. So I was more worried about that. Like it wasn't really like socially people would like judge us.
I
It was
see.
more like, what are we going to do about this campus ministry kind of thing.
Right.
And when I realized that that was the only issue, it was really a small issue, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I see. Okay, so and you guys were dating and you guys got married. I was at the wedding. It was a beautiful wedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
I loved my wedding.
Yeah. It was. But didn't you?
Sorry, our wedding. I always get in trouble. I say my wedding, but it's our wedding.
It's okay.
Yes.
Shirley does that all the time. The grooms are usually just there. It's for the bride. But wasn't there an issue with like bugs during your photos or something?
Oh my gosh, how do you remember that?
I don't know. That's
Yes. So like it was so crazy. Like so I had this my mom made my veil, but it was like really, really long, like super duper long. I don't know if anyone knows Princess Diana, but she had a really long train at her wedding, and so my mom dreamed of me having a long veil just like hers. And so it was super long, but it acted as like a mosquito net in the
trapping the
yes in
mosquitoes.
Georgia summer, right? And we're taking pictures, and I'm realizing outside in these bushes, like all these mosquitoes are like attaching to my veil, and then like David's noticing like these welts like all over my body, right? And I'm like freaking out, but it all worked out. I mean, obviously my friends like covered it up with makeup,
I see.
and then I took some Benadryl, and the swelling went down. I think like normally Benadryl makes you sleepy, but I think my adrenaline was so high that it didn't even affect me.
Wow.
But yes,
Yeah.
that was like one big scare because I thought I would be this big giant red ball
Yeah.
on my wedding day. But
So
yeah.
I think I remember that because on our wedding day, it was so cold outside when we were taking pictures that Shirley, when we finally got inside, she was like turning purple.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I think it was, in my mind at that moment, it was, wow, I guess just things go wrong when you're taking pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Something has to go wrong.
Yeah.
But it's good. You know, it always works out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the wedding, I didn't notice any of the like bug bites or any of that. I think I remembered because I heard the story after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it was a beautiful
Yeah.
wedding.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, married life and motherhood, because that's a very big pivot or transition from, your traveling life of going to doing like video production and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So was that a difficult transition or how do you feel like that went?
The transition from single to married life was not a big one. David and I, my family, my immediate family still lives in California. So I was here on my own in Georgia, and David is in the same position. So
Right.
we saw each other quite a bit, and I think married life didn't really change that much. We still see each other and things like that.
Yeah.
When I got pregnant, though, I had a really terrible pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so that really changed my life completely because I had to quit a lot of things, like quit my job. Even I had a lot of roles at church too. And I just kind of had to just drop everything
Yeah.
because I was so sick with morning sickness, if you can even call it that.
I remember, I think for the entirety of your 9 months with Eli,
Yes.
I don't think we saw you once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Eli, I want to say I was sick for at least like 27 weeks or
Wow.
something like that. I think after the 27 weeks or something, I was feeling a little bit more social, but it was really tough for me.
Yeah.
I want to even say at times I was going out of my mind, just
Yeah.
throwing up every day and yeah, it's really awful. But pregnancy is great and worth it. Sorry. It's just me. Oh, and it's hereditary. So don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah,
But
that's a very interesting thing too that I learned about you, because you're an only child.
yes.
And your mother is also
An only child, yeah.
Because your grandmother had a very difficult
Pregnancy, yes, yes. So I think definitely it's hereditary. With my second Zoe, it wasn't as bad. I think I was only sick for about 4.5 months, and I almost feel like my body was like, okay, like you got to get it together, because I had Eli too.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Zoe it wasn't as bad, but I still like kind of wanted to die because it was awful. Like just throwing up. I don't know if you've experienced motion sickness on the extreme end, it's like, it was like that for me, like for 9 months or 4 months with Zoe. So that's the best way I can describe it.
Wow. Wow. So at the end of the day, you have 2 kids now.
Yes. Yes. And
totally worth it?
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. No, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I will say with Eli, just being a new mom and just the trauma that I experienced during the pregnancy, I think it was difficult for me to get back on my feet. And what I mean by that is just even... because you're a dad now too. But that first 4 or 5 months, you're just trying to figure things out, make sure the baby stays alive, and he's fed. And for me, it was just it wasn't until maybe Eli was like maybe 9 or 10 months where I really felt like connection with Eli, or even I hesitate to say this because I don't want people to misunderstand me, but yeah, even to be like, yeah, it was totally worth it. Because it wasn't until then where I think my body recovered and my mind recovered from that traumatic time for me. And but with Zoe, it was much different because Eli at that point was 2, and I knew that Zoe was also going to be like this fun 2-year-old one day, just like Eli. And yes, it's completely worth it. It was completely worth it. I don't think I'm gonna personally do it again, but my 2 children were completely worth the 9 months for both of them that I went through.
And I know you were very careful about the way that you were phrasing that, but I think it's really great that we're talking about it because, like, for us, me and Shirley, going into parenthood, all we heard were the good things. And any sign of negativity, I think we started thinking, are we doing something wrong?
I see.
You know what I mean? Like almost like we were disillusioned. And I think there should be more public conversations about difficulties of becoming new parents, right? Especially for the mother, because their bodies go through change, lifestyles change drastically, and you're kind of tied into this new new stage of life, right? It's not like you can say, "Oh, I don't like it, so I'm just gonna erase this and go do something else." You're kind of stuck with this baby at least until the baby turns 18, right? I think I'm glad you said that because. I'm glad you said that it took you, 9 to 10 months to really kind of get back into it because I want people out there to know. For new parents, I want them to know that it's okay if it takes a little bit of time to get back into it.
Yes. I mean, I even have been telling people this year. So Zoe is 15 months now, and after she turned 1, for me, I just kind of then started feeling back to myself again. I think for both babies, it took me about a year to feel whole, even spiritually and physically, mentally, emotionally. So I've been kind of joking around with people that, 2020 is a new year for me. I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. But I agree with you. And I know, again, this sounds a little bit silly, but even the social media world, thankfully nowadays there are moms that are more real,
Yeah.
and it is really encouraging,
Yeah.
to see that. But definitely within our community, I think if we talk about it more, it's super helpful. And I'm glad, I'm friends with your family, and I'm glad that we can share that kind of life together too. So.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody. So
Absolutely,
I will
yes.
say this: Shirley is super lucky because her her pregnancy was relatively easy.
Yes.
The birth was relatively easy and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be different for everybody. So if anyone were to look at Shirley and say, "Wow, it was so easy for her. Why is it so difficult for me?" I would be very sad.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I want them to know and understand that no, you are unique. You're in a unique situation.
Yeah.
So if it's more difficult for you, that's just your situation. But that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean that,
Definitely.
it wasn't worth it, Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good stuff. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask about a motherhood is your husband is full-time working,
Yes.
right? And he is also a pastor.
Yes.
You are also a pastor.
I am.
Right? So there's a lot going on in your family, right?
Yes.
So how do you divvy up, duties in your household? And like, how do you guys juggle all these different things that you have to do? And also if you can touch on kind of the dynamic of, being two pastors at the same church in different ministries.
So just to touch on the last question, being pastors at the same church in two different ministries, it has its pros and cons. But for David and I feel like it's more pros because what's great is there's this natural flow, or there should be, right, from children's ministry to youth group.
Yeah.
And because of that, even our teachers, they're all EM people, English ministry people, and there is this synergy, I think, that's starting to happen in the last year. I feel like David and I can communicate better lead. Sorry, that's not a word, but better ways to kind of excel in our ministries because we're working with the same group of people. Our sixth graders, my goal is that their transition to youth group would be a smooth one. And I think because David and I live in the same household and are married and we can talk more, we can actually, communicate better on how we can do that. And so I really think it's a positive for us that we can be in two different ministries and be at the same church. So that's been really good. I've only been doing children's ministries for maybe like 2.5 years.
Well, in a kind of a official capacity.
Capacity.
But you've been kind of involved
in church
for a long time.
Yes,
right?
for a long time. But officially, I've worked under Pastor Joe, who was on with you, right? He was on with you. For 2.5 years.
I see. Do you ever get competitive about? Because you said you guys have a shared resource pool for teachers, right? The English ministry. So do you ever get competitive about, I want this person to come to children's, and David saying, no, I want him to come to youth?
No, my husband's really good about that.
Wow.
Yeah, he's great in just whatever I need, he just lets me have.
Wow.
So I'm very grateful. But honestly, at our church, these days, praise God, we have enough people that we don't have to share from the same pool. It's actually different people. So I'm super thankful, which is, would have been impossible like 3-4 years ago. But now it's been really great.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But that's a good question.
Yeah. I was always wondered. Okay.
Oh, that only happens. Okay. So my husband, David, also does praise team. So it does occasionally happen with our praise teams.
I see.
Yeah. So the youth team leads worship for children's ministry. And sometimes he needs to take people for the combined English ministry service. And when he does that, but doesn't tell me, I get a little bit like, okay, like children's ministry is important too. You can't just take people from my team. But yeah, that's the only time that's like kind of comes up.
That's funny. I see. Okay.
Yes.
Well, what about the other dynamics of having to juggle all those things in your household?
It's difficult.
Mm.
I think David is really good about it.
Wow.
He's really he can be stretched really thin, I think, and really far, and be okay. And I think that's because he really thrives in the areas that he is like working right now. So, structural engineering, he doesn't like love his job per se, because, he would rather be pursuing other passions.
Yeah.
But structural engineering, he also does enjoy it. I know he does, because when he brings it home and talks about it like he is kind of a nerd, I'm like, oh, so you like what you do. That's cool. And so he thrives in that area. And then also when it comes to youth group and praise team and worship and music, he loves it. And he loves our family, of course. And so he is able to do a lot of things, and he's very, I don't know the word for that, but
He's just very resourceful.
sure. Yeah. I think that could be a
Oh,
good
he
word.
has a high capacity.
High capacity,
Right,
thank you.
yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. High capacity to handle all those things. Me, just my like only childness and just my selfishness even, I have a limit, right? So there's a lot on our plate, and I can go as far as David like asks me to go, but a lot of times I retreat after like a certain amount of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think just even though so I'm really extroverted with my thoughts, but I think in my personality, I do need like space and time for myself. So juggling that is kind of hard, I think, for David. Because David, he can like be with people all the time and like be great and come home and still be great. But me, I just kind of shut down. So I think as far as juggling things, that's what's difficult for our family, is that there's this push and pull of like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." But then I also know that that's what we're on this earth to do, if
Right.
that makes sense. When it comes to ministry, right?
Yeah.
Meeting with people and having events at our home or having events at church, and so I feel very blessed. But when my flesh is like, all right, enough, like, is when it's difficult.
I see.
But David's really good about kind of managing that with me, so I'm very thankful. Did I answer your question?
That does. No, that's great. No, because what that tells me is there is, because you need to be willing to understand each other's needs. And I feel like David kind of understands that you do need time for yourself, and he manages time so that you get time to kind of personally retreat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, getting to this point in our relationship has taken some time. We've been together for like 10 years this
Right.
year. So, yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress, but it's been fun too. I think in this last 3 years, even just with our, our babies now too, and being able to do this kind of life together has been really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So one question that I need to ask, because it's been in my head. Do you ever feel like you'll go back into coaching ice skating?
That's a good question. I want to. I think it would be great. So coaching again was a very pivotal. Sorry, I'm having trouble
It's
speaking.
okay.
Pivotal time of my life. Because I never really liked kids. I mean, I don't hate them, and I love my kids,
Yeah.
but I wasn't really a kid person. Like I didn't want to hang out with the kids. But coaching changed that. Yeah. So before I was a children's pastor, I was a coach, right? And so majority of my students were probably like 9 and under.
Wow.
And I loved it. And God really like opened my heart to love children and even like learn how they tick, learn how they think, and like the best ways to relate to them and teach them things and new things. And so that actually set me up for being a children's pastor.
Wow.
Yeah. And so as far as coaching goes, I would love to return back, but it's a lot of work. And I also really enjoy being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And unless, my kids are old enough to go to school or take care of themselves, I think it'll be a little while before I jump back into the skating world.
I
But
see.
yeah.
Because I mean, I just asked because you're at the highest level now. You're level 7.
Yes, yeah.
So that's no joke. Right? You have very credible and excellent credentials, right, to be a coach.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
God, you make me sound so awesome.
So me and Jonathan Choi, we would joke around whenever someone found out you used to do ice skating. Our immediate go-to would be, yeah, she was this close to the Olympics.
My gosh, don't tell people that.
No,
it's
but-
not even true.
But now knowing that you were level 7, that's not that far off.
No, that it is. There's a lot of
No.
people that are level 7.
No,
Yes.
but you are amongst the greatest of the greats in level 7. So yeah, I was just wondering if that was still kind of part of what you wanted to do and what you were looking forward to. So it's kind of just, I guess, as of now, up in the air.
Up in the air,
see.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, up in the air.
And then selfishly, I ask because I have a daughter, and it would be great for her to learn ice skating.
Oh no, when Aisley is old enough, I will teach her for
thank you.
free. Yes.
No. I can't let level 7 teach my kid
Stop.
for free.
Oh my gosh. We'll do group lessons with my kids. It'll be good.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we were gonna talk about that I missed?
I don't think so. I think I talked a lot.
No, this was really great. I actually learned a lot about you that I didn't know before.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
and, I think the one big part I really appreciate about your story is kind of the ability to take hardships and turn it around and see the full picture of what God's doing in your life. Because you've done that with ice skating, you've done that with becoming a mom. Yeah, it's because when you're in the middle of it, it's so hard to say.
So hard to say. It's so difficult.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, just the fact that we have people like you in our community who've already done it, I think it should be very encouraging and inspirational for people going through it right now, and just knowing that at the end of the day, God's got a bigger plan for you. God's got a story for you. So you never know how your hardships can be redeemed.
Definitely.
At the end of the day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like if it had worked out any other way, like say I went to the Olympics or yeah, I guess that was the only thing, go to the Olympics or even gone to college somewhere else. I would not have met David, definitely.
Yeah.
And I would not have my kids. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's a lot of things. But
Yeah.
yes, thank you for acknowledging that. It's really encouraging for me.
Yeah. Oh, actually, one thing I wanted to add before we closed out the episode is you're doing something very interesting for your birthday.
Oh, yes.
And it was really good timing because the organization that you're working with, the Collective Effect,
Yes.
we had the founder on not that long ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Who Christina's a very close friend of yours.
Yes, Christina is a very close friend of mine.
Yeah.
We met in high school, and so for my birthday, she, as she talked about on your podcast before, she's building a well in IHTHT, Uganda, and for my birthday, I'm trying to raise money for this well to build this well, and yes, that's what I want for my birthday. I realized recently that I live such a blessed life, and when David asked me what I want for my birthday, I couldn't answer him because God has provided everything I need, and if not God, David provides everything I need. So I felt like this was something that was needed, and it's not. Honestly, I know as I'm talking, it kind of sounds like I'm doing something for myself, and I can see how it could be viewed that way. However, I really am excited and am already encouraged because my birthday is just a few weeks out, but already people have had the same heart as me in wanting to do something to help these people that don't have access to clean water. And yeah, people are already contributing to this well in my birthday gift. So if we stop today, I would be super thrilled, but we don't have to, you know. I still have a couple more weeks to my birthday. So
Yeah.
thanks for bringing it
Yeah.
up. If anyone would like to donate to my birthday present, you can Venmo the Collective Effect. And if you put for Blair's birthday in the memo, then, you know, we'll just get to know how much we raised and how much our community raised for this well in
Yeah.
Uganda.
Yeah. So if any part of Blair's story today inspired you or encouraged you, please, because it's not just for Blair's birthday, right? It's for her birthday, but it's also gonna be life changing for the people of Erie, Uganda.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, please donate. Please.
Yes.
Give. Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, you don't even have to put for Blair's birthday. You know, just donate.
No,
It's fine.
put for Blair's birthday. We want to see. Yeah. Because, you know, like she was on the podcast, you know, she shared her story with us. You know, I feel like it's appropriate for you to show that appreciation in the form of a donation. So,
yeah. But yes, the Collective Effect is doing great things. So
Yeah.
even I just hearing her story, even though I know it, but hearing it in your interview with her was so awesome and again, just inspiring for my life. So
And thank you for the connection, because without you and David, we would have never had that connection to contact Christina. So,
of course.
Well, anything else? Did we miss
No.
anything? Okay.
I don't think so.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being on. And guys, if you have any feedback for us, any questions or any just encouraging words for either of us, you can contact us at IHTHTpodcast@gmail.com. That's I hope they hear this abbreviated at gmail.com. Or I hope they hear this abbreviated podcast@gmail.com. Or on Instagram at I hope they hear this. Or on Twitter at IHTHT podcast. And on YouTube, the video will be on YouTube. Just look up, I hope to hear this. And again, please, people of Erie, Uganda, they do desperately need a well. So any little bit helps. So Venmo, the Collective Effect, in the memo, put for Blair's birthday. All right. Well, so thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.